Hey, how are y'all doing today?
Awesome.
Awesome.
Great.
Living the dream.
It's so good to see you. Thank you for Zooming with me. I am so excited about your panel session at the Email Innovation Summit, talking about innovation and the best innovations you've seen over the course of your careers and what you predict to be the innovations we'll be seeing in the next 5 years. But on this call, I wanted to get together. I'm wondering, how do you guys identify innovative things? How do you define innovation?
Karen gets to go first. I think Karen should go first.
I think Karen should go first too. I vote for Karen.
Vote for Karen.
All right, I'm on the hot seat.
It's anonymous.
I think innovation is a pivot, and I think it's definitely something that hasn't been done before. It's sort of a combination of invention, creativity, and it's born out of a need to do things differently because something works better than it has in the past, or something wasn't good enough, or an option has been cut off, and now we need to find a new way to do things.
I'd agree with that. I think, what I'd add is, and the one I always, when people talk about innovation, the one I think back to is CY. Remember CY back in the day with the abandoned cart thing?
Yeah.
That was one of those that everybody was just like, why didn't I think of that? And I think innovation for me has a combination of, why didn't I think of it that way? Or that's a really interesting, to your point, Karen, that's a really interesting way to think about it. It was backed up with data and it could be replicated. And I think on all three of those levels, that's where innovation truly comes to fruition, is if people can understand it, you can read data about it, you can see the results, you can do all the research and say, okay, yeah, well, let's try that. That makes sense, right?
Yeah, it's the same thing, right? For me, I always look at how data was used for real-time content, like real-time mapping, real-time weather, real-time, putting people's names on top of images, that type of thing that happened a while back, but it was definitely a different thing, right? It was definitely an innovation at that time. There was some minor stuff being done with it, but when some of those groups got together, companies actually brought all those services together. I think that was an innovation under my eyes.
Well, but you have to, when in time does the innovation start, right? And this goes with also saying in the future. So a lot of the things we're talking about with data and everything else, 20, 25 years ago, those were all just dreams. I mean, those were sitting around, boy, if I just had this much data, I could do something. And so was the innovation identifying that need or developing the product to solve the problem identified by the need? Right.
Yeah, I think.
So where does the innovation begin and where does it end? I think it's perpetual.
Or where is it born from? Like going back, if I could summarize better what I said before, if innovation is about growth, agility, and expansion, then what has happened in email? What have we seen in email that has made it better and made it easier to use? What comes to mind for me immediately is dynamic content. Somewhere along the line, somebody must have thought, wouldn't it be great if, as I'm a retailer, let's say, as I'm sending this promotion, that I could let people know exactly how many units are left, or I could give them a countdown timer to let them know how much time they have to act.
Well, but then going back in time though too, realize that while it's easy to do that today, those very things that you were just spoke of started 15 and 18 years ago. So you could do it 20 years ago. It was just harder to do. So is it today's innovation or is it yesterday's innovation improved? Right. So what is innovation? Are the ideas? Is it an innovation a new idea? Is it improvement on an old idea? I think what is innovation is moving a target as email.
No, yeah. I mean, it's a track, right? Everything has a precedent. Everything has, hey, here's what we used to do, and here's what it is. I think you're right, John. It is kind of a life cycle in of its own, right?
Yep.
To get something new, you had to have pain on what you did before.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, and you need to, and you also need to be able to bring it to the masses and make it ease of
Right.
use.
Right.
Right.
Right,
I
right.
think that's the biggest thing, because you can have a great innovation, but if it's only used by 2%, and there are plenty of things out there
Right.
that are only used by 2%, is
E-
that it's an innovation, but it's not for the masses.
Right.
Exactly. So,
Shark Tank calls that a hobby.
Yeah, there you go.
well, and so basically, we've talked about just one innovation that started a long time ago and is now at the point where anybody can use it. You know, even 10 years ago, you had to have some technical abilities. And that's not to say that you don't need technical abilities to do anything, but the technical abilities you need to accomplish these common tasks are less than what they were once upon a time. So is that the innovation, or is which part?
Well, everything starts as an idea.
Right.
So of course there's innovative ideas, but then an idea becomes reality. So,
Right.
I think the innovation is when the thing comes from idea into existence.
Yes.
It's
And
made
it's usable.
tons of
Yeah.
innovative ideas
Right,
that just don't ever manifest into reality.
Right.
But
One
is
of the
there?
things that manifested is, real-time dynamic content, where now you don't have to figure out how to code it yourself.
Right.
You don't have to sign up with a third-party provider. You've got plugins, or it's baked into ESP and MAs automatically. It's enabled.
Well, and all that goes back into what both Ryan and Karen were saying too, as where's that pain point? Retailers needed something. They needed to do inventory, and as Ryan identified, that was a point of pain. And then someone came up with the idea or trying to find that solution and hammer it, and you probably had dozens of people all simultaneously trying to solve the same problem. And then somebody said, hey, here's a way I can template it and bundle it and package somebody else. So what are we looking for today? Are we looking for today's pain points that there are no tools to solve? Or are we looking for how to improve those tools that are in the platforms today? Again, it's the definition of innovation.
Yep.
Well,
innovating.
one thing I would ask is, do we see a distinction between invention and innovation? Are they two separate things? Because I see innovation is, in John's definition, is along a path, a trajectory, whereas invention is, this thing never existed before, and I'm going to create net new.
I think they are different. I think that an innovation doesn't have to be an invention.
Mm-hmm.
It can be an improvement on an existing process.
It can be an iteration on something else.
Yes.
Right.
Oh my gosh, you guys, I thank you so much for joining me on the call. I know that your session is going to be absolutely fabulous. And thank you for joining me today. I look forward to seeing you virtually June 1 to 3 for the Email Innovation Summit. And be safe, stay well, and take care. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Thanks, Gene.
Take care.
Great seeing everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.